Ahoy, welcome to the first episode of my first read-along, this time of Moby Dick. So I'm excited to crack this open and see what is in store. So starting on page 1, we this nice dedication. In token of my admiration for his genius, this book is inscribed to Nathaniel Hawthorne. That's really nice. So Herman Melville, like Nathaniel Hawthorne. I also like Nathaniel Hawthorne. This bodes well. Okay, great. Next page. Etymology. All right, we have this section here on etymology. So, some strange introduction. Whale, Swedish and Danish haval, H-V-A-L. The animal is named from roundness or rolling. For in Danish, havalt is arched or vaulted. Okay, that's the Webster's Dictionary. Fascinating. Okay, great. We continue. Next we have a quote from Richardson's dictionary. Whale. It is more immediately from the Dutch and German wallen. Okay, next we have a list of whale translated into all different languages. All right, great. Extracts. What is extracts? Let's see. So, strange introduction here. And then, next we get some epigraphs. Let's see what epigraphs we have. And God created the great whales. Genesis. Okay. Leviathan maketh the path to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. Job. Okay. Now the Lord had prepared for him a great fish to swallow up Jonah. It's from the book of Jonah. All right. Let's see here. This goes on for quite a while now. So that was all just the beginning part of page 1. I see here we have a quote from Hamlet, skipping quite a bit. Very like a whale. That's from Hamlet. Nice. What else can we find? And now I'm on page 3 of epigraphs. Quote from Paradise Lost. Excellent. The sea beast Leviathan, which God of all his works created hugest that swim the ocean stream. Wonderful. Another Paradise Lost quote. There Leviathan, hugest of living creatures on the deep, stretched like a promontory sleep or swims and seems a moving land, and at his gills draws in, and at his trunk spouts out a sea. Okay, that's another epigraph from Paradise Lost, John Milton. We have epigraphs here from Thomas Edge's 10 Voyages to Spitzbergen in Purchas, skipping a whole bunch. A Voyage to Greenland by Harris Call, skipping a whole bunch of epigraphs, turning a page. We have epigraph from Rape of the Lock. I don't know what that is. Cook's Voyages, not familiar. Many more epigraphs. Edmund Burke, Spain, a great whale stranded on the shores of Europe. Nice, okay. More epigraphs. I think I'm on page 6 now of epigraphs. Charles Lamb's Triumph of the Whale. Okay. This will obviously take me quite a while. Scoresby. I think I'm on like page 8 now of epigraphs. The whale ship Globe, on board of which vessel occurred the horrid transactions we are about to relate, belonged to the island of Nantucket. That's the narrative of Globe Mutiny by Leigh and Hussey, survivors. A.D. 1828. Okay. So in short, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 full pages of epigraphs. That's brutal. That's a brutal way to start a book. One approach, and this is something that I've heard the great Steve Donahue say many times, is that you should just skip them. He says, skip the epigraphs. You don't need to read 12 pages of epigraphs. There's nothing that can put you off to a book than 12 pages of epigraphs about whales. But it's a question, right? What's going on here? 12 pages of epigraphs isn't such an isolated incident. There's a chapter here called Cetology, chapter 32 of Moby Dick, which is like an encyclopedic chapter about all the different types of whales and their biologies and their differences. And it's for chapters like this, and there's other chapters as well, which are very detailed about the processes and the techniques of whaling. And so the book Moby Dick is sort of like a meme. If you go on Goodreads and read some of the negative reviews, they're quite comedic at times, but it's what was Herman Melville thinking? What the hell is 12 pages of epigraphs? Why is there a chapter in here about the anatomy of whales. A long chapter. So what are all the possible answers we can propose? One possible answer is that, actually for some people it's pretty interesting. It's a book about whaling, so it doesn't hurt to spend some time to read about whales. And actually whales are a very fascinating mammal with all sorts of fascinating characteristics. And so, I would enjoy reading a Wikipedia page about whales. I've done that before. Why not put it in a fiction book as well? Other people have correctly pointed out that Ishmael, our narrator, plays games, and he's a funny narrator. And so even though a chapter might sort of feel droll at times or seem like it should be dull, he does surprising things. He plays games with us. And certainly in the context of the epigraphs, those openings, he has like this whole thing going on about like the sub-librarian where he got these epigraphs from. And it's like silly, it's absurd. And our narrator Ishmael is like this brilliant, funny, sort of friendly character. And so it's consistent with that. And so that's another reason why people can enjoy, these parts of the book. But I want to offer my own approach to this question. This is something I've never heard expressed anywhere else. And I'm not sure it's correct. I'm not sure if it is correct, it's only correct probably for me. I'm not sure that anyone else will appreciate it or see value in it. But it's sort of an insight into the way I approach this book and how I make sense of those chapters and of those elements, which are surprisingly thorough, overly exhaustive, seemingly encyclopedic, that are in this book. When I was young, and also more recently, I've really enjoyed watching documentaries and reading about the Apollo space program. Apollo 11 was the first mission that put a man on the moon. And when I was very young, growing up in my parents' house, they had a library of VHS tapes, and there were some documentaries there. And I remember there was an Apollo documentary about that mission, and I loved it. It was fascinating. And on one level, a story about the space race, about putting a man into orbit, putting a man on the moon, is a story of history. It's a story of technology and engineering. It's a story of the Cold War. And it can be told like all those things. It can be told like a piece of history and a piece of engineering. But there's something else there that some readers, some viewers, some writers, some producers might seek to tap into. It seems to me that a world in which a human being has walked on the moon is unrecognizably different from a world in which a human being has never walked on the moon. A world in which a human being has traveled outside of our planet into space, outside of our atmosphere, is fundamentally different, is irreconcilably different from a world where that has never happened, where that's an impossibility. It can change the way we think about human beings, about human civilization, about what it means to be human, the kind of risks we're willing to take. It's a story of human beings trying to harness forces that are literally unfathomable. It's a kind of exploration in the face of unimaginable risk. And for the people involved in that program, for the person who's on that spaceship, you can't come back from that unchanged. You can't come back from that with the same perspective of what it means to be human, of what it means to inhabit this planet. Our frame of reference changes. And if you watch a documentary like that and you're affected by it, your frame of reference can literally change. And so if that's your goal, if your goal is to give someone an experience which will literally alter their perspective on life, how do you do it? One important technique One necessary, invaluable technique is emphasizing questions of scale. A mainstay, a necessary piece of any Apollo space documentary is a long, slow, panoramic, moving camera shot, either upwards or down an Apollo rocket. And it's slow, and objectively, to an external observer, it might feel tedious. But it's necessary because you have to appreciate the sense of scale. You have to appreciate the majesty, the incomprehensibility of the sizes that we're dealing with here. You can tell the story of launching a human into space and walking on the moon as an isolated story. Or, if your ambitions are larger, you could tie it in to a legacy, a genealogy of what the moon has meant in literature, what the moon has meant in art. What are the associations? You could bring to bear the language and the ponderous implications that have been imputed by human beings for millennia into these symbols. You could treat the vastness of space, the emptiness of space, the mystery, the mysterious phases of the moon as metaphors. And you could bring that to bear in your narrative. In the world in which Ishmael, our narrator, our fictional narrator, is writing to us, is communicating with us, his version of outer space is the vast ocean, cut off from all civilization, cut off from all humanity. It's an equally inhospitable environment. It's those same significations, it's those same mysteries, those same metaphors that our narrator Ishmael brings to bear in the first chapter of this book, Loomings, when he goes on a long digression about the mystical significance of water. Quote, "Why is almost every robust, healthy boy with a robust, healthy soul in him at some point or other crazy to go to sea? Why, upon your first voyage as a passenger, did you yourself feel such a mystical vibration when first told that you and your ship were now out of sight of land? Why did the old Persians hold the sea holy? Why did the Greeks give it a separate deity and make him the own brother of Jove? Surely all this is not without meaning. And still deeper, the meaning of that story of Narcissus, who, because he could not grasp the tormenting mild image he saw in the fountain, plunged into it and was drowned. But that same image we ourselves see in all rivers and oceans. It is the image of the ungraspable phantom of life, and this is the key to it all." End quote. And that's the register that Ishmael is working in. And what Ishmael does in this book is he takes us by the hand. He says, "Come with me. We are going on a voyage." And he is incredibly charismatic and incredibly compelling. And we fall in love with him as a narrator. And he takes us on a voyage that is supposed to change our lives and can change our lives. And this read-along, this sort of vlogging experience as I go through the book and talk about what it means to me, is to try to put into words, to try to put my finger, formulate some of the ways in which this reading experience for me personally has been transformational. Before and after living this experience, I'm a different person. And I hope you will join me. Thanks for watching.